Are banks actively preparing to custody XRP, and what is that going to look like? Jake Claver does break this down, and of course I have some additional context to go in after that. After the Jake Claver clip and information, we have a ton of other information around XRP and Ripple, where the price is going. A little bit of fun coming from other communities, but we're going to talk about that too. Let's play the clip.
Do you think banks will custody XRP? I can tell you no, they don't. Well, not for you. They don't have the capability. We've talked to them. I talked to Fidelity. I talked to Schwab. I talked to JP Morgan. I talked to Bank of America. I talked to all these people. They do not have FBO accounts. They don't have anything set up. They have no way to custody these assets for you. And that's why we're at the forefront of that at Digital Wealth Partners and provide institutional grade custody for our clients in FBO, segregated accounts, bankruptcy remote, insured, in real institutional custody, not like some of the other people that propagate. They have institutional custody out there, like you might know other people pushing. I'm not going to name any names. We have real institutional custody. It's insured up to $100 million. That's crime insurance by Lloyd's of London. If you want to see the paperwork, I've got it. I can show you. So anyway, no, I don't think banks will. I think they'll get around to it. Once there's demand from retail, maybe they will, but really they don't care. They want to use it for themselves and they will profit off of it. Like I mentioned before, there might be 2 billion XRP held by retail investors, maybe 2% of the supply. They could, I don't want to say they could care less, but they can kind of care less. Like we're going to have to take care of ourselves. And that's why I've built what I've built, and our team is in place and we're ready to make sure that we're able to, help you guys. I did this selfishly for myself and for the community, for the XRP family. I wanted to make sure that you guys had a spot to be able to borrow against your XRP, earn a return on your XRP, mitigate risk and taxes for your XRP before, because the banks weren't going to do it. I've talked to all of them. They don't have it. They're not going to do it. If they get around to it, it'll be 6, 10, 12, 18 months from now when they have something for you. Or they'll make an acquisition of an exchange and like roll them in, but that's still going to take at least 6 to 8 months for them to, tie that infrastructure in and do the reporting and create all the partnerships and do everything that we've already put in place to be able to get all this stuff done. So
Jake says banks are not really preparing right now for this, but him and his company have solutions. Obviously, do your due diligence, right? If you are giving your XRP over to Jake's company, you want to do your due diligence on Jake and his company to make sure that if something happens, what happens to your XRP, right? Is it the same situation where, not your keys, not your crypto? Is he holding it? That's the type of stuff I'd want to know. I wanted to get some additional context because it's good to have an opinion, Jake's opinion on this, but I also wanted to see what else was going on. Ripple's custody solutions are now trusted by banks in more than 15 countries, supporting secure asset storage and compliance for institutional clients. So, doesn't say which banks here, but it does get into Bank of New York, BNY Mellon, America's oldest bank, has been appointed as the primary custodian for RLUSD. This partnership is designed to enhance institutional trust and regulatory compliance. In South Korea, has partnered with Ripple to provide regulated institutional custody for XRP. It does say this is a broader trend in Asia, where as many as 80% of Japanese banks are reportedly preparing to use XRP for global payments. We're still waiting on some of that. Ripple projects that by 2030, up to 10% of global assets could be tokenized, about 16 trillion. And there are some companies creating strategies in the XRP space. I don't need to read all this to you. If you want to pause it and just take a look here, please do so. Let's go ahead and jump into this next clip here. Best case scenario, $5 to $7 for XRP. What is this?
We're going to see prices with some alts, XRP to $8, Solana to $8.
All right, hold up. Before we listen to the clip, what's behind him? What's behind him? Bitcoin, the Bitcoin enlightenment. All right, just giving you this clip might have a little shade.
$100, BNB to whatever dollars. And I feel like you had some of these charts that you were sharing around, the historical risk levels, where you were showing that if these alts, like these blue chip alts, how they're sometimes referred to, were to go up to these type of prices, it would just be way beyond any sort of risk level that they've ever reached historically. And maybe you can talk to these real quick, because I feel that's what a lot of people don't understand, especially like people who are just...
This guy often does, he comes after some of my posts about XRP. So I'm very interested to see what Benjamin's going to say.
On social media, and they're hearing like, okay, XRP to $8, it's possible, because Bitcoin has also rallied this much. So maybe if you could recalibrate some of that euphoria, that would be amazing as well.
Yeah, like if you look at XRP, it's always kind of topped out around that 0.9 to 1 risk level. And it's already gone to 0.8 to 0.9 risk. But to give you an idea, I would say that the best case scenario for XRP, assuming Bitcoin goes on a parabolic rally, in Q4. Best case scenario, as far as I see, is going to be like somewhere between $5 and $7, right? And I know that's going to hit people like a brick wall to hear that, especially if they're looking for a much higher XRP price. But people have to take into account market cap and whatnot. And I'm not trying to make the rules here. I'm just saying, look, based on what XRP has historically done, and assuming we have diminishing returns and whatnot, like that would be the price that would be the market cycle top.
Interesting. So as he's laying out his research here, right? And it's good research. Last cycle in 2021, Ripple had the case over it, right? So we really didn't see what XRP could truly do in a speculation market. It is true that we are still currently in a very speculative market, but we are reaching this point of utility towards the end of the year. You're going to have crypto regulation, institutions coming in with ETF demand. He's not understanding market cap, obviously, and market cap multipliers, right? You are going to get a 100 to 500x multiplier in the very short term on that additional money coming in, inflows and outflows. When you have ETF, electronically traded funds, these are products that you can invest in. You're not actually buying the asset. You're buying a stock that is representative of 5XRP or 10XRP. So it's a way to own XRP kind of without owning the actual token, right? And so these ETFs, they need to fund those products with real XRP, right? Because it has to be backed by XRP. So you're having 1 billion. You've seen Mark McClung from Canary Capital say he thinks 5 billion in the first 30 days. Now, we don't really know if it's going to be 1 billion, 5 billion, 10 billion. We just don't know. But we do know this institutional demand is going to come in, and whatever that is going to be, that is going to have a dramatic impact on XRP's price. So if this person obviously hasn't done the research on market cap multipliers, and I get it. And I've also seen a lot of people take market cap multipliers and just think it's like infinity. It is not infinity. Once you get to close to Bitcoin's market cap, the market cap multiplier will not be in the hundreds. It'll probably be around 5 to 8, something much, much smaller, because the reason you have that gigantic market cap multiplier is because it is illiquid. You don't have enough liquidity in the token. As more liquidity comes in, that market cap multiplier shrinks dramatically. So don't assume that it's going to last forever. It's definitely not. And I just want to, have that conversation with you because I see a lot of misinformation on X about it. And trust me, I've done so much research on this. And I think I've proven to you through that research over the last 6 to 12 months. And you should have a really good understanding of where we're going to be. ETHgate gang keeps Ripple and XRP out their mouths these days, but the arrogance comes with the government free pass, never goes away. Let me just play this.
Are there other ecosystems? I appreciate your holdings are one thing, but are there other ecosystems that you look to and appreciate certain elements of them? Like Solana, some of the other Sui, say, what have you?
So I
Ripple is also is also a valid response in this podcast. It is a safe space here.
Fair enough. Yeah. Well, you're not going to get too much on those out of me, unfortunately. I mean, I'll go back to kind of and maybe it's an ETH Maxi response.
Yeah.
Probably. Liquidity begets liquidity. You've got kind of 90% on Ethereum of real assets. Solana can keep the meme coins.
There are other ecosystems. I appreciate your whole.
Listen, these guys will do and say anything to crap on XRP. Just do the research yourself. Never trust somebody that has a financial obligation to ignore what's happening with Ripple and XRP. These guys only want people to buy Ethereum. They don't want to consider that Ethereum's not the solution for international payments and institutional stable coins to move value. They really don't want to be that. And remember, Ethereum purposely set up in Sweden to avoid all US regulation. Ethereum Foundation paid $15 million to a law firm that the former SEC director was at. And there's a lot of people that believe that Ethereum Foundation paid the former SEC to basically give them a free pass. That has never really been looked into at scale. And I think if they did look into it, there would definitely be some hard discussions in the Ethereum community, but they've gotten by with so much. And it just a little frustrates me that these guys, have the audacity to, just still kind of attack Ripple and XRP, knowing that they paid to play. Right? And they got lucky. All good. Digital Asset Investor says, I'll just leave this here for the Bitcoin Maxis. XRP market cap multiplier update. During the 30 minutes while Powell was speaking, we saw 30 million in net inflows in XRP. and that jumped 15 billion in market cap. That's a 488, right? And he was replying to this clip. I should have had this right here. I do apologize. ADHD. I played this clip in another video. I thought it was really good. I'm going to play it here.
I do believe we are on the precipice of a big change in terms of how cross-border payments work, because my own view is, when there are new technologies that clearly improve the status quo, it's hard to restrain them indefinitely, right? And if you can clear a cross-border payment in seconds as opposed to 2 weeks, like, we should probably do the thing that allows that payment to happen in seconds, right? So my own view in terms of stablecoins is it seems like, unless there's a big political shift in the US, we are really putting all the eggs in the stablecoin basket. We're not doing even a wholesale central bank digital currency. And even if there's a new president in 2029 who does authorizes the Fed to do a digital dollar, like, it might be too late at that point, right? Given how fast some of these, alternatives coming out of China are developing. So my own view is, if I were, to wave a magic wand, I would say we need to figure out a way to ensure that a well-regulated stablecoin ecosystem develops, one that is not used for corrupt practices, is not used for illicit practices, where American consumers are protected, where it's not, they're not going to lose their money, because of some sort of, a scam or something like that. And critically, that there are these AML KYC requirements so that they're not being used as a way to skirt sanctions. My own view is that's possible, right? You could build a stablecoin ecosystem where the US has zero less power than they do today to impose sanctions. And that would be good, right? Because I think ultimately you get the benefits without having the costs, with the dollar being used for fund to run.
All right, so really quickly here, sanctions are playing a very key role in why BRICS are moving away from the US dollar. There's a lot of things that happened between Russia and Ukraine. Not going to get into all of that, but when the United States and their partners blocked Russia from accessing the SWIFT system, they basically showed every other country, if you do something that we don't like, we are going to put you on timeout. And that timeout basically means disconnecting your entire country from the world's financial system. And this is why you have other countries that are rushing away to join BRICS. And that is going to have some negative effects on the US dollar moving forward. According to the new SEC IG report, nearly a year's worth of text messages from former chair Gary Gensler's archive were permanently deleted, lost due to a series of avoidable technology failures by the agency's Office of Information Technology. This text includes one sent and received by the former chair on his government phone between October 18th, 2022 and September 6th, 2023. I wanted to get some additional context on this. We talk about nearly a year's worth were lost. Gary's government issued phone stopped syncing with the SEC's device management system. You start to wonder, was there some foul play here? Obviously, there might be an investigation. Failed to maintain backups or implemented emergency system changes without proper management oversight. These steps, compounded by new policy automatically erasing inactive devices after 45 days, resulted in the phone wipe and permanent loss of messages. The impact: many lost texts were considered federal records, which are required by law to be preserved, and some included potentially sensitive communications relative to enforcement actions and crypto regulation. About 1,500 messages were partially recovered, but the majority were lost, raising concerns about transparency and compliance, especially regarding high-profile events like the FTX collapse. SEC actions: the agency has now disabled text messaging features across staff devices, except on limited use cases. Report the records lost to the National Archives, or agreed to adopt stronger device management, log retention, and backup policies. As recommended by the IG, the SEC spent $53,000 on contract to review the incident, but found their after-action review unreliable. So what's going to come of this? We don't know, but it sure seems pretty strange to me. I don't want to jump to any conclusions, but I know there's going to be people in the crypto space, especially people that watch this channel, that might find this very, very suspicious. And, we already have a problem right now with government and transparency. This is not going to help. This is not going to help. Digital Asset Investor was pointing out all the connections here between the Gensler family, Sam Bankman-Fried, CZ, Elizabeth Warren, Joseph Bankman, Barbara Fried, the mother, Linda Fried. Like, there's some weird stuff going on here, ladies and gentlemen. And then Digital Asset Investor says, is this kind of crap still acceptable under Donald Trump, or will there be a real investigation? I don't know. They didn't investigate when Ethereum got the free pass on ETHgate. Do you think they're going to spend time investigating this? I don't know. You tell me down in the comments. Does this frustrate you? Do you not care? I'd love to better understand. Thank you so much, guys, for watching. I'll see you next time. Have a good weekend ahead. Aloha.
I have just built a course for beginners, intermediaries, and experts of XRP to better understand the XRP ledger and Ripple, the company. If you're interested in getting that course absolutely free, there's a link down in the description. Please let me know what you think after you've taken the course. Aloha.